6-11 a year ago.
Starting to heat up, ladies and gentlemen, and one of the most creative scores in the W.
Starting to go on a rampage here. They've cut it to 5.
And with the first overall selection in the 2023 NHL Draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are very proud to select from the Regina Pats, the Western Hockey League, Connor Bedard.
What is going on, everybody? This is Mike Hughes, and you are listening to Mike on the Mic and Everything Chicago Sports-related podcast. We're back with another late one. It is currently, I don't even know what it is. It's got to be like 11:30 at night. It is currently 11:54 at night. We're sitting here right now with less than 24 hours until the MLB Trade Deadline wraps up and concludes. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be exciting. Today I was at the Cubs game, so I didn't get to do this exactly as it happened. It actually happened immediately after I left the house to pick up my boy Coop. But with that being said, getting right into it, we have two trades to talk about. Now, the Chicago Cubs lost 6-4 against the Cincinnati Reds. Elly De La Cruz goes 0 for 5, but the Reds still put up 6 runs against Marcus Stroman. You hate to see it. It was another lackluster performance to finish off July, which was just a whole group full of lackluster performances from Marcus Stroman. I think the only decent start I saw from him so far this year, or so far in this month, was against the Boston Red Sox. And even in that game, it wasn't great. But we did get to see a Dansby Swanson home run. I was wearing the jersey as it happened, so you'll love to see it. I've seen one from Belly, and I've seen one from Swanson so far, so that was a lot of fun. Obviously, they kept it interesting. They had some fight. They lose 6-4, but the storyline for the Chicago Cubs tonight isn't the Cincinnati Reds. It is a former friend who used to be in the pipeline of the Chicago Cubs, currently knocking 16 homers on the year with the Washington Nationals. Jeimer Candelario is back with the Chicago Cubs. I'm really excited about this one. It's somebody who I never wanted to see go. Everybody knows I'm huge on prospects. I believe in prospects. It's one of the most interesting parts of the game. Jeimer is one of those guys that I felt like could be the next kin to Chris Bryant. Not obviously the same level of an MVP caliber player, but definitely somebody that I felt like would be a serviceable third baseman for the Cubs in the foreseeable future. Obviously, Theo Epstein went the David Bodie route, and we all see how that played out. He's still hanging out in Iowa as we speak. But the Chicago Cubs made it right this time. Obviously, he's having a phenomenal season. He's doing his thing. Right now, I think this is something that the Chicago Cubs offense desperately needs, is somebody who's just a consistent bat, a power bat, somebody who we can trust every single day, and to really just be the best versions of themselves. So, without further ado, we can really just get into that and have these conversations right now about who we're getting as a player. Now, as a Chicago Cub, it was a guy that we knew, wasn't going to be the greatest. He's currently sitting right now at 258 on the year batting average. Last season, he batted 217. But the years before that with the Detroit Tigers, he was batted 271, 297, 203, 222 or 224, and 330. With the Cubs, he only batted 0.91, 1.50 or 152, from 2016 to 2017 in the small stints that he got to play. But he's definitely somebody that I look at moving forward as, a key piece to this organization, and somebody that if we can continue to lock him up and see what he could potentially do at the hot corner, I think you have a consistent bat that's going to just be a great addition to this team. Now, he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal with the Washington Nationals. He's going to be a free agent at the end of the year. So what we gave up in return were 2 top 20 prospects. Obviously, in return, you have left-handed pitcher DJ Herz, who I've been very high on. And a guy from the Yu Darvish trade just from a couple years ago, and Kevin Mate. So it's definitely not bad. It's a great return. Definitely could have been better if we just never let go of him in the first place. Didn't have to trade for a guy when you had him on your team. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, I love the deal. I think it's a great move. I think it's a move that moving forward is definitely going to help benefit this team a lot. It's definitely going to help them continue to get better. It brings another bat to this offense that I feel like at times is lackluster. And, it's not just going to be the Seiya and Belly show. You know what I mean? We're definitely going to see them be the best versions of themselves. So it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. Our other move is Jose Cuas, who has an amazing story. Jose is one of those guys that, if you don't know, him and his brother Alex were obviously interviewed not too long ago about how Jose wanted to quit his job and he's working overnights at FedEx and really just trying to make ends meet for his family. He obviously has children, and he has this incredible story of how he got into the league and how he became the best version of himself. Currently sitting at about 4.53 on the year with his ERA, over 400 ERA as a career. It's not the craziest deal. This isn't a bullpen arm that I expected. I was looking at an Aaron Bummer or Brad Hand or somebody along those lines, but we definitely got it for the cheap. We traded away Nelson Velazquez to the Kansas City Royals. So, Nelson obviously came into this year knowing that he was going to be in the minors the majority of the year. David Ross just doesn't have a feel for him. He's kind of dealt with that. He's kind of had that experience, and I think he's over it. Obviously, the big grand slam this year, was obviously the highlight of his Cubs tenure throughout his history of being a Chicago Cub. Defensively, I love Nelson. He's great in Iowa. I just saw his performance with Ben Brown and Alexander Canario the other day when Brown took the mound. Amazing defensive ability in there in the outfield. So he can definitely continue to grow in Kansas City, and I expect him to grow in Kansas City, and I think he's going to flourish. What's wrong with Stroh is one of the biggest questions going around right now. I'm not too sure. I think the reality of the situation, to kind of discuss both the trades with Jeimer Candelario and Jose Cuas right now, you look at a guy like Marcus Stroman and you say, is he safe tomorrow? Is that going to be a conversation? Are you going to bring up Brent Brown? Are you going to bring up Caleb? Are you going to keep Hayden Wesneski up here? Does Marcus Stroman become available? We know Cody Bellinger is untouchable. David Ross even spoke on that earlier today in pregame, saying that he was not going to be moved. But you haven't heard that about Marcus Stroman. So like I've said, I think there's going to be a lot of conversations about it. I think, obviously I said Marcus Stroman for Curtis Mead with the Tampa Bay Rays organization. He's their top third baseman prospect. I definitely think that's out the window now with Jeimer here, but not to say that Jeimer's better. I don't think he is at all, but I think you make that move, it's a cheaper move, which is okay. He's still 16 home runs. He's MLB contention, so that's perfectly fine. But it's definitely something that, looking at Marcus right now, if the offer is right, this is what we've been talking about all year. He's looked as great as he has, and it's a conversation to where he's going to come back down to reality eventually. 2.47 ERA throughout the first 4 months in the Chicago Cubs uniform in 2023, and now has over a 3-something ERA, over 350 right now as it sits. So I don't even want to check what it is tonight. I really don't. Somebody said, you think we can get Bednar? I think there's a lot that goes into that. I think we're not going to go out of our way to be buyers. I think we're going to get guys that are really just available. We're not selling high on guys. We're not going after guys that are high. David Bednar, pardon me. Great reliever pitcher for the Chicago Cubs. He's somebody that I believe, you could look at and say, listen, he can do a lot for this team right now. And I completely hear what you're saying. 6'1", he's a huge guy. It's something for me to where they're going to ask for a Brennan Davis. They're going to ask for somebody in our top 10 farm system, and rightfully so. You know what I mean? He's having a great year. But with that being said, I like the bullpen that we have. I think they're very solid. Right now, David has a 1.27 ERA. They are going to ask for the world of this guy. So, where I would love that, I just think, Jed is not in a position to where we're trying to win a World Series, where this is not an Aroldis Chapman type trade where we're giving the top 5, top 10 guy in our farm system. So that's really how I look at that. It's a great question, though. He's a phenomenal ball player. You think Stroh is tipping pitches because of contract issues? No, I do not. I think Marcus Stroman is just coming down to earth. You're getting a second half look at him. Teams are getting more looks at him, getting more film under their belt on him. And it's also hard to replicate a Cy Young caliber season the entire year, at the age of 30. I'm definitely rocking with Stroh, and I think Stroh is great. I would love Stroh to stick around. But I also understand the situation, and I also understand that Marcus Stroman is aging. You know what I mean? We've had this conversation all year. I've never changed on that stance of Marcus Stroman. I'd love for him to return. If we can trade for Marcus Stroman right now and get him to come back on a cheaper deal, maybe not a super cheap deal, but a relatively, team-friendly deal, player-friendly deal for 2024, I would enjoy that. Now, Cody Bellinger, when you got a guy who's won a Silver Slugger, a Gold Glove, plays Gold Glove first base and center field, anywhere in the outfield, and is having MVP numbers and won an MVP and a World Series, been the 4 World Series in the last 6-7 years. You look at that and you go, you can't risk that being traded away. You got to lock him up. But with that, you look at a guy like Stroh, and if he becomes available tomorrow, I definitely think that conversation is more legitimate than ever. First half of the year, obviously, you're like, no way, no how. You know what I mean? Extend him. But now you're starting to see throughout the month of July, the best baseball he's ever played was in the first month of the 2023 season. But the reality is that's not Stroman. You know what I mean? Like it's phenomenal that it was him and that he was doing so well. But, guys come back down to earth. And I think it's unfortunate that he didn't have a great July because, the sky would have been the limit for what we could have offered or what guys could have offered us. What do I think the Cubs do tomorrow? Tomorrow, I think, is going to be an interesting day. Tomorrow is going to be one of those days that I think a lot of teams are kind of just waiting to see what happens with guys like Mike Trout, guys like Juan Soto, Arenado, Paul Goldschmidt, Shohei Ohtani, and a bunch of others. But for the Cubs, I'm honestly in a good place right now. I think the team is where it's at. We had the same conversation about the Cincinnati Reds just the other day with my buddy Gonzo from Gonzo's Sports Room with the ASAP Network. Him and Pops, him and his father Tony, they believe that the Reds are in a great position. You have a lot of young players, but it's not a trade the farm to bring in more assets type year. You know what I mean? The Cubs are in a great position right now to do great, and I'm excited about it. But you got to wait for the reinforcements. You got to wait for P. Crow Armstrong, Brennan Davis, Kevin Alcantara, Matt Mervis, Ben Brown, Hayden Wesneski, Caleb Killian. The list goes on. Cade Horton, Jordan Wicks, all these guys are coming. And you have to wait for that. You already have the Dansby Swansons. You already have, the Miguel Amayas, the Christopher Morels, the Cody Bellingers. That's great. You got to wait for the reinforcements that are going to be rookie deals. You don't got to trade away the farm for, what's likely going to be a first-round exit with the Cubs. Now, if we go further, that's great. But, we're not really set up right now for that. But, yeah, so I love what we did so far. If you're just tuning in, the Jeimer Candelario trade, I love it. I felt like he never should have left. You know what I mean? I always felt like he was going to be that next to kin for Chris Bryant. The Jose Cuas trade, I think, is amazing as well. Pardon me if I butcher that. But, yeah, it's definitely something. I think the Cubs made 2 solid moves, and I'm really excited to see what they could potentially do tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. If it is, we're going to be here live. So if you're new here, smack that follow button for me if you haven't already. We're going to be going live all day tomorrow, 11 p.m. Central. Before we get out of here, 11 p.m. Central, I will be joined by former and current Chicago Cub Jared Young, currently in AAA Iowa, but spent a lot of time with the Chicago Cubs major league team this year. He's played a little bit of first base, a little bit of outfield. The summer of Jared Young is continuing on Mike on the Mic. You can follow me on TikTok at theshy.kid. Definitely check that out already if you haven't already. But Jared Young will be joining the show tomorrow. We'll be live on TikTok. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be seeing what's going to happen. We're going to be likely in Iowa sometime very soon. We're seeing if we can get interviews with PCA and company. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we'll catch our guys Mervis, Ben Brown, and Brendan Davis. But until then, I'm going to check you guys out on the next one. Thank you guys for listening. This has been Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic, theshy.kid on TikTok and Instagram. If you haven't been following already, you are listening to the All Sports, All Plays Network. Peace.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, they working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.